Okay, hi everybody. I'm going to talk about something that's a little wonky. We've heard brilliant testimonies about how the priorities of the city should be reoriented, but we often hear that there's just not enough money for these things. You know, there's money in that police department. We hope to take a big whack at that. But the city is about $600 million short of what was anticipated in the current year's budget. And we're not likely to get that from the police budget. But contrary to what many of our leaders tell us, we can increase taxes without hurting poor and working class people. There are two in particular that some of us have been talking to council members about, and we need them to step up and put into place. One would be reinstituting something called the personal property tax. It's a wealth tax. We've heard about that at the national level. Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren talked about that during the campaign. Well, we can have one right here in Philadelphia. We actually had a personal property tax for most of the 20th century. And it was abolished because some of the banks threatened to leave town, you know, if we continue to levy that tax. So that was a convenient excuse to abolish it, but it should be reinstated. It's a tax on stocks and bonds. It can be put in place to start with at a very low rate, as it was in the 20th century, and we think it could raise about $50 million, or maybe more, because in the past it really wasn't enforced. It was called the, quote, honest man's tax, unquote, because only honest people who didn't have to be compelled to pay it would pay it. There was almost no enforcement. So with a little bit of enforcement, we think it could raise more than $50 million. And then there's the gross receipts tax. It's a business tax. It's mostly on big business. It's also at a very low rate, and small businesses are now exempted from it. So if you raise the exemption amount and you doubled the tax, we think we could raise about $40 million from it. The nice thing about this tax, one of the nice things about this tax, is that it's actually also imposed on businesses from out of town. Any business that sells in the city of Philadelphia. So if you're, you know, you're a fish processor, a salmon processor in Alaska, and you sell a lot of Alaska state salmon in Philadelphia, this is a tax that would fall on you. And it should, because if you're profiting in Philadelphia, then you ought to pay some taxes in Philadelphia. So we could double the rate of the tax, and it would still be lower than it was in the mid-90s when it hit its top. And we were told we had to cut the tax in order to advance the economy of the city. Well, we cut the tax, and we know what's happened to the economy of the city. We have the biggest rate of poverty in Philadelphia of any of the big cities. Now that we've cut these taxes. If anything, it's caused more poverty because we can't fund programs that actually help the poor. So those are two particular taxes, the personal property tax, gross receipts tax, that if we don't get them moving this year, we should be ready to raise up again next year when the same problem of not having enough money is going to raise its ugly head again. So that's my wonky contribution to this discussion. Thank you.